Well, I was seeing spirit when I was very young, and it freaked me out. My mother would tell me, and when I do see her again one day, I will ask her, how did you know? But she would tell me she would be the only one that I could confide in. And I would tell her, and she said, well, you are seeing ghosts. They're nothing to be afraid of. They're just people that don't have a body any longer. And they're showing themselves to you because you're able to see them. And if they show themselves to you, they either want to give you a message or need you to help them with something. So if you're able to ask them what it is they want or need, great. If not, and they're freaking you out, tell them that they're freaking you out and to stop bothering you, and they'll go away.
Welcome to the Consciousness of the Way. I'm your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master Sun Qing. And again, as I always remind people every day, it's like Christmas Day for me. I come down to the tree, and the incredible universe has provided this amazing being and brought them into my life, bringing them to the podcast. Father Shawn, welcome to the podcast, brother.
God bless you, brother. Thank you for inviting me. I've been looking forward to this. When did we first speak?
I
A
don't
couple of
know.
weeks ago.
Yeah,
I've
a
been
couple
looking
of
forward
weeks
to it
ago.
ever since.
Yeah, I've been really getting, kind of giddy and excited because it's amazing when you resonate. And I mean, I always break things down to the simplicity of energy, frequency, and vibration. And it's like literally we're resonating in that same state. And it's a beautiful thing when you can create this type of connection. And that's sort of part of, I would contribute to the idea that it's a belief system. It's being able to stay in that state and, embody that there's something greater out there than what we see before us. And I'm just
Mind
excited.
if I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
I love what you're wearing. What is that?
Yeah, it's a basic traditional sort of like a robe. And I can set you up with a couple if you want. I'll get you a couple.
Very cool.
Yeah, hey, you might want to wear it at home for.
I got the most of the time I'm in a clergy collar.
Yeah.
But I have a Benedictine habit, which is beautiful. And
No, I'll set you up with a couple. I'll get a couple for you. You give me
cool.
your size, and we'll make it happen. And I'm a little bit of a robust sort of like. I was never a small lad, so
You neither. My wife. I gained 100 pounds in 20 years since marrying my wife because I have no willpower. I love great food. She's a phenomenal cook. So it's really her fault. I blame her for it. But and even before then I was always a big kid.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
right there with you, brother.
Yeah. So you should be able to fit it. I think this is a double XL, something of that nature. I've never. It's so strange, I as a child, I spent my time pursuing things that are far more physical. So I dived deep into bodybuilding and powerlifting. So by the time I was like 16, I started at 11. I was like competing in bodybuilding. I actually remember the first show that I did. I was like 187 pounds at just under 4%.
Wow.
And that was quite a feat because I was using my mind. And so it wasn't until my late teens, 18, 19, that I discover that Schwarzenegger was using more than his mind. And it deflated me a little bit. And then I was like, no, I achieved it. I did it. I went out there. I was doing some crazy things, squatting obscene amounts of weight and bodybuilding. And so even if I starved myself to death, about 180, 190 pounds would be a baseline. So it's impossible for me to obtain that. So you and I, brother, we're in the perfect ratio. So we'll get you set up with that stuff. And strangely enough, you'd think it wasn't that they wouldn't make sizes for husky guys like you and I, but they're out there.
Very cool. Very cool.
So how about you share with the audience a little backstory, a little origin of who you are, where you came from, how we got here today.
How we got here today, I firmly believe some of the powers that you are in communication with steered you my way. Uh, because ordinarily, I would these types of meetings of the minds and conversations wouldn't take place, especially in this day and age. So I believe you were steered my way. Um, I'm boring, but um, oh gosh, what can I say to you? I just did a TV show, which was great, and that landed in my lap out of nowhere. And I wondered, I was already an ordained Christian exorcist through a Christian university at the time.
Mm.
And I didn't know how or why this show landed in my lap. Now, I'm a baptized Roman Catholic, have been all my life since I was a baby. And I remember when I was a small kid, my mother, who was Brazilian, my father is American. They're both in heaven now. May they rest in peace. But my mother used to always say to me when I was younger, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And being a dumb kid, I would always tell her things like uh, fireman, policeman, um, professional football player, Spider Man, whatever. And she would say, "I think you should be a priest." And always thought that was the craziest, funniest thing anybody had ever said to me. So here we fast forward 60 years later, and that's that could be another show how I even became an ordained exorcist through a Christian university. But here I am, I'm doing that. A good friend of mine who's a paranormal author on the East Coast, Joni Mahan, she gets a phone call out of the blue from a gentleman, introduced himself and said, "I'm a producer working on a TV show about demonic possession and exorcism. Do you know anybody that I should speak to?" And she said, "The only person I could think of was you." So I gave him your name and number. He called me. The rest is, as they say, history. But now, this was before the pandemic, and the show only aired June of last year. So it took that long to finally get
Wow.
it get it on the air. But I remember 2 weeks in LA, and we're finally done. We crammed in about um, 12, 16 weeks of filming into like 2 weeks. So it was very long, exhausting days from like sunup to sundown, Monday through Friday, at like a 30-minute lunch. You could take a bathroom break if you had to, but it was just long days to get it all done. But we're finally finished. It's the last day, and I'm sitting in a trailer. And I had met a wonderful gentleman on the set named Bishop James Long, who is now my bishop. But we got pretty close, and he walked into the trailer, and I see he's got this up to something grin on his face, and I know, what's going to happen here. He says, Can I have a quick word with you, Shawn?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely, James." He said, "One thing I've learned about you in the 2 weeks of working with you is this: one, you have a pure heart, and two, I think you would make a great priest. You don't have to answer now. You can get back home, talk to your wife about it. And if you're interested in entering the seminary with my church, I could probably make that happen for you. You have to go in front of the council of bishops and be interviewed and all that stuff. And you have to pass the seminary. Nothing's going to be handed to you. But if you're interested, we can make that happen." Well, I didn't tell him at the time what was going on, but as he was speaking to me, I could see my mother's face on his face, and I could hear her voice. And she had a very heavy Brazilian accent. I could hear her voice coming through his mouth. And I knew right then, it hit me like a bolt of lightning. That was why the show landed in my lap, was for that very moment. I didn't answer him then. I already knew the answer was going to be yes. But I did wait till I got home, told my wife what had happened, and she said, "There you do. You got your answer," because she knew that I was looking for that answer. I didn't know how this got landed in my lap. Matter of fact, I turned the show down because I didn't think you could do a show uh, on demonic possession and exorcism and it not just make the church look silly or make
Mm.
us look silly. So I actually turned it down. But several phone calls later, I finally started to get to know these producers and writers and started to see their vision and realize what they wanted to do. And eventually I got on board with it. But that day changed my life. So I entered the seminary at 60. Who does that? But when you're called to something, and that's what I try to tell people all the time, I get people come to me every single day. Um, they want to be a priest, or they want to be an ordained exorcist, or they want to do this or do that. Um, and and I know you've heard this a million times, but it is a calling, and it's hard to break the news to some people when I don't um feel they are actually truly being called to that. The only thing I could tell them is I wake up every day and pray that I never have to take authority over another exorcism again as long as I live. It's a very
Mm.
ugly, very scary thing. Having said that, God gave me the discernment to be able to use myself as a vessel and allow the Holy Spirit to come through me and do what needs to be done in these circumstances. But I got drug into it, kicking and screaming, literally. So it wasn't something I woke up one day and asked to be. And I've actually turned the page on that and took a break while I was in the seminary. I just recently got ordained this past St. Patrick's Day to the priesthood. I had to first become an ordained deacon and then continue more training and more classes and then finally graduate and then fly out to Indiana. Actually, Indiana was for the diaconate, and then Illinois, I flew there to for the presbyterate to be ordained to the priesthood. Um, but I turned the page on that, and I wasn't doing any paranormal cases or any demonic cases or anything of that nature because I wanted to just become a priest. That was the goal I wanted to do, and so now, having done that, probably right around the corner, and my wife tells me every day, you are going to be a priest. You're going to be a great one, but let's not forget why this all came to you. And you are going to, you've been given a gift to do something. So you probably should get ready to start taking these really deep theology and demonology courses in the old Catholic Church through the bishop and start getting ready to go down that path. And I know it's going to be, you know, uh, it's going to be a very interesting path because here I am, like I said, here I am, a baptized Catholic as a baby, and never veered off of my faith. But entering the seminary, it was jaw dropping and eye opening how much I realized I did not know about my own faith. And so it's going to be quite interesting the things that I will learn in that uh, in that part of this. The ride in terms of Catholicism because I was doing it through a different jurisdiction or religious belief system before becoming ordained. So it's going to be interesting, but um, I just, everybody that's watching this show that thinks, well, I'm going to reach out to him afterwards and take his course and learn how to do this. You really have to do some deep soul searching, as you know, and hopefully you get the answer and get the discernment that it is either the path you're supposed to be on or not. And you may get the voice that tells you, no, this is where you need to be, and you better listen um, because I don't have any magic powers. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
I go with it, and and you know that when you're being led and shown your path, you just I don't know what name you attach to. I don't know if we pray to the same God. I believe we do, but you don't say no to God, and so that's where I'm at now, and here I just one amazing person like you after another I meet in this field, and it's just all meant to be, brother. I mean, it was in the cards probably before you and I were born that you and I would be sitting here having this discussion today.
Oh, without question, without question. I mean, that sort of entrees into conversation, and clearly there's some sort of like foundation in your belief system that you potentially or do believe in incarnation, reincarnation, if you're speaking on those lines.
Well, let me tell you something. I have a lot of friends, clergy, and colleagues that don't believe in it. I I'm on the fence. There's days where I'm jump on the side of belief, but I'm still hanging on, and there's other times where I'm still just on top. I finally realized that can I prove that past lives exist? No. Am I on the fence about it? I can't prove that they don't exist. Do I believe that the God that I pray to can make anything happen? And after you cross over, can he send you back? I believe yes. The answer to that is yes. But just too many things have happened to me, like even before I was born. I mean, my father is a 25-year, well, God bless him, he's in heaven. He was a 25-year retired Master Chief Radioman in the United States Navy, served in World War II, part of the greatest generation. Korean War, was a Purple Heart recipient. Finished his career out in naval intelligence, but he gets stationed down in Brazil, of all places. Meets, falls in love with, and marries my mother. They live there for a while. Have my two older sisters. They come back to the States. My father's still in the service. My mother is advised never to have any more children because the birth of my second oldest sister was a rough one. So she was supposed to not have any other children. So my father, before he even met my mother during World War II, now he was just a God fearing man, but just Christian, I guess. He wasn't baptized. Grew up in Oklahoma during Depression era, but he's sunk on a ship during the war, and he's floating around out at sea. Not very many people survived this sinking, but he's floating around on a piece of wood, and nobody thought that anybody was going to come and save them, and nobody was coming. But the true hero was this one captain of this ship who disregarded orders and went back for survivors, even though there was a lot of enemy around. And my father recalled being so violently ill because he was bobbing around in the ocean, and there was probably all kinds of gasoline and oil and God knows what else floating around on top of the water. He's ingesting some of it. So he's violently ill. And when the morning fog clears, he sees the ship coming. They start taking aboard survivors. My father's too sick to even swim to the ship. And he hears uh, over the loudspeaker, prepare to get underway. And he even hears the engines kick up. And he decides, well, they may drag me back dead, but they're not going to leave me here. And he sees a rope in the water, and he takes the rope and he just, you know, wraps it all around himself. And he actually remembers feeling himself getting pulled through the water. And he heard a deep voice say, "There's one more over the side." And he recalled a very large, muscular sailor jumping over the side of the ship and hanging on with one arm, grabbing him by the scruff of his neck and throwing him on the deck of the ship. And where he hit, he basically passed out for about 48 hours. And when he woke up, he's under a little makeshift tent with a couple of corpsmen taking care of him. And he scoured that ship front to back, top to bottom, trying to find the sailor that saved his life. Nobody even, people were telling him that sailor doesn't exist. The guy you're describing to us, we have nobody that fits that description. And nobody even saw the incident. It was like 1 second my father wasn't there. The next second he's on the deck of the ship. So my father truly believed his whole life that that was his guardian angel that saved his life. So now fast forward many years, my mother, my two older sisters, my father are living back in Northern California, at a naval base, and he's off again out to sea. Somewhere in his travels overseas, he contracts spinal meningitis, encephalitis, and some other things. And then there was no cure for this stuff. And forgive me if I don't know if there are any cures to this stuff now. Maybe there is, but then there wasn't. So basically, he was dying, and they rushed him back to the States and had him all strapped into this bed. Um, and they figure he's going to be dead by morning. So they tell my mom that. I don't know what she did with my sisters, gave them to a neighbor probably, but she's taking a cab to the naval hospital. And on the way there, she stops at this church and goes in, crawls on her hands and knees all the way up to the altar, throws herself at the mercy of the court, if you will, and begs for God to save my father's life. Promises two things: that if he does that for her, and I don't advise trying to make a deal with God, but she said, I will crawl on my hands and knees to church the rest of my life when I go to church, and I'll have another child. So she gets to the hospital and she's laying there by his bed, and he's not doing well, and they don't expect he's going to survive till morning. She wakes up and there's my dad sitting up, totally normal in the bed. Totally normal. She screams. The doctors and the nurses come running in. They run all these tests on him. There's no traces of any of the diseases left in him. They have it still in the naval medical records as being, they wrote it off as being a miracle because they don't know how all of a sudden he didn't have any of these diseases left in him. So my mother kept her end of the bargain until she was too old and physically unable to do it any longer. Whenever she went to church, she did it on her hands and knees, and she had another child. Ta-da! Yours truly. And so I went through all these years growing up, her calling me her miracle baby. And then she started with the, you're going to do something great for God one day, and I think you should be a priest. See, these are the things that you can't explain or make up. And it was in the cards, man, long before I was even born, that I would be on the path I'm on now, doing what I'm doing, and sitting here and talking with you. So, are there past lives? How many times have people that don't even know me walk up to me that I've got to know later and truly believe in my heart of hearts are psychically gifted? Not everybody that claims to be so is, but I do know some people that I truly believe in my heart of hearts are truly psychically gifted that tell me I have lived past lives. You and I will be having this discussion in heaven one day, and we'll laugh at all the things that we don't know now that we're going to know then. And we'll know then if we do or not. Are you and I going to want to come back again? How many times you and I may have already been here? Maybe bunches, maybe not that many times, but um, we'll see, man. It's just I just find the whole thing just amazing.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would have to agree with you, and strangely enough, you're speaking on things that under the blanket of a priest is within Taoism. These are all the things that I train people in. So, clairvoyance, mediumship, channeling, physical healing, manifestation.
It's all
That's
a gift
the kind
from
of stuff.
I'm going to call him God. I mean no disrespect
Yeah,
to
yeah,
you. I
yeah,
call him God, and I believe that these people that are truly psychically gifted that you and I know, it's a gift from God, um, because they're true of heart and they're still people of faith. They don't pervert and distort their gift and do weird things with it. They're still they're the people on our level. We're very. I don't call myself a psychic, but we see things, we know things, um, and it is what it is.
yeah, yeah. Now, I mean, this is the very stuff that's the foundational sort of part of Taoist metaphysics. Is the deeper understanding. So we always have a ritual or a system to develop clairvoyant senses. Is one of the first things I teach people. And then when you're able to do that, you do simple things like I do quite often, which is what I do with my kids. Sometimes we'll go down to the strip and we'll do what we call psychic drive-bys. And so you grab someone in the street that's never met you before, and you go, "Do you want me to? Can I give you a reading?" And they're like, "Sure, go ahead, whatever. This is fun." And my kids love it because I'm training them in that, and they're the ages. I've got 6 of them from my youngest is 4 months old right now, and my eldest is 12 years old, and they just naturally attune right into the information. And so you can discern and affirm, but I make it very simple. It's the present moment that makes it possible for me to access that information. So when I look at someone, I look at the excess and deficiency of the elements within the physical body and all the emotions that are attached to the organs. And then you have energy centers. And I can look at the energy centers go up and down and give you the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual state of that individual. And they freak out because at first you start from the bottom. And I tend to go from Earth, which is the first energy center we associate within Taoism. And then you go to things that people familiar with, like root chakras. They call them chakras, whatever. We just call them energy centers. And so each energy center has an emotion, and you want to acquire the virtue that's attached to that. So everyone has their emotional state, and you want to remove the excess and balance and create homeostasis. So with that, you quickly create a profile of someone, not because I'm interested in giving you an understanding of your deeper nature of who you are. That's just sitting there in the field. I can see it with my eyes open. So everything has an auric field. Everything has the info. Kind of looks like for me to explain to someone how it is, it's like I'm looking at a computer screen. So everywhere I look, there's information that is given to me, and then I can create a very clear picture very quickly. And so it always starts there, and you get to the second energy center, which someone would call the second chakra, which we call the third energy center. And I start talking about sexual like energy. And then all they go, whoa, 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 hey, whoa, hang on, whoa, this stuff is real, isn't it? Yeah, I don't claim to be an oracle. I'm just trained at seeing the information, and it's not an attack of your personality. It's just there in front of me, and people are like, holy moly, this is real. I'm like, yeah. Would you like me to continue? No, I'm good. Because the information is, it's always seems people want to share it initially, and then they think, oh, I'm doing everyone a service by helping them understand that I have these things, or I'm doing this stuff, or I'm dealing with whatever it is. And I always tell people, like, certain things that would lead up to what we would consider an exorcism between you and I. It always starts with oppression, depression, and then finally possession, which sort of like is where you get this sort of level of there's 2 ways to go. Now, 30 years ago, when I'd have people come to me, most of them were fighting off the one-way ticket to a loony bin with a straitjacket, and they're out of their nana, and their family are bringing me someone that needs real deep healing. And so from that face value, you go, oh, no, this person is not insane. They're really working with an opposing energy that is controlling their very behavior. And when you look deeper into the energy centers, I've never found a possession that hadn't had the energy centers locked up. Like, normally you see the rainbow, which is really an indication of the light that comes from the sun, comes from God, universe, Buddha. And so that's a representation of these energy centers that transmute into a greater level. So if it's a fluent energy center, you will see the representative of the colors. They'll be very vibrant, but not every time I've ever had a possession, they're black and they're locked up, and they run all the way up, and there's nothing much there other than darkness. And it has a lot to do with how that person's approaching their current life. And normally I give people past lives. So we talk about past lives. I'll give you the last 9 lives you've had leading up to this one. And people freak out because I'll sit them down, they'll close their eyes, take a deep breath, and they'll experience the visceral sort of kinesthetic response and witness it in their mind as I describe what is coming out and leading up. And it becomes so palpable that they're like, holy moly, this makes sense to me, because it always comes back to this center. The heart will always be your biggest fan, and the complete attunement to your higher self. So your intuition will never ever be wrong once you attune these deeper methods to bring that out. So it's like, when you mention all this stuff, it gets me all warm and fuzzy inside. I mean, I train people in this all day long, and it's very real. Clairvoyance, mediumship, channeling. I channel all the time. There's a channeling level to what we speak of. You know, you approach a certain method of exhuming whatever entity may be impeding someone's ability to embrace their reality, whether it's an entity in a space, whether it's in an actual physical vehicle. There is a processes that really works really well. Personally, I've been doing this 30 years. The only thing that it comes right back to, all the bells and whistles aside, all the stuff, whether we do dowsing, ley lines, we look at the whole infrastructure of the surrounding environment, and then we get deeper into the individual, not just the place that they preside in. Love. It's just love. And so never have I ever come across an entity that once you are able to see them, and their negotiation is very quick. They go pretty fast because you give them what they want, and that individual then starts to open up and become more whole. And that love is the most powerful thing. One time I had like a 3-hour exorcism. It was wild. And that was back and forth. Like, you take 3, I take 2. It's like, this is not this difficult. You're here to clearly open this person to a greater state of awareness, or perhaps not plague them for the rest of their natural born life until they move on. Let's get down to business and work out what it is that you're doing here, and let's negotiate, because there's always an answer. What are your thoughts on that? I went right into it. I want to hear what Father Shawn has to say about this stuff, because this is the stuff that we deal with. But sometimes I'll have fire sales where there's just a huge amount of entities. I'll go for 6, 8, 12 months straight, nonstop, and then I won't see any for a long time. It just depends on the rhythm of what's going on in the current environment. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts. Well, I was seeing spirit when I was very young, and it freaked me out. My mother would tell me, and when I do see her again one day, I will ask her, how did you know? But she would tell me, she would be the only one that I could confide in. Um, and I would tell her, and she said, well, you are seeing ghosts. They're nothing to be afraid of. They're just people that don't have a body any longer. And they're showing themselves to you because you're able to see them. And if they show themselves to you, they either want to give you a message or need you to help them with something.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're able to ask them what it is they want or need, great. If not, and they're freaking you out, tell them that they're freaking you out and to stop bothering you, and they'll go away. Well, then that changed into me seeing things that I knew were from that same, uh, for lack of a better term, realm, dimension, what have you, but I knew they weren't spirits. I knew they weren't disembodied human spirits. I knew they were something different, and they really scared me. It was a completely different feeling, much darker, much lower vibrational type of creeping around things. And I would tell my mother that. So I think she knew that if she opened up and told me what it was, what those things were, I probably would have really, I was already the type of kid bouncing off the walls 24/7 that, that wouldn't have gone over well. So she started, like, when I would come home from school, we would have nap time, and she would say, "Okay, I want you to get a nice big handful of my hair, and I'm going to get nice good grip on your leg, and we're going to nap that way. That way, these things that are really freaking you out won't be able to take you away." Well, many, 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 many years later, I realized what she, what I was seeing, that she didn't want to tell me what they were. So, I kept that in the closet for a long time because I didn't want, when you're growing up, whenever I had a chance to get on my Schwinn, throw a Polaroid in the basket, throw a little, tape recorder in there and ride around and try to find a spooky looking abandoned location and go in and do a little ghost hunting, ghost busting. I would do that. But I didn't really tell a lot of friends that I did that because I didn't want my friends to think I was crazier than they already thought I was. When you're young, you want to have friends. You don't want to do something that pushes them away. I regret that. Part of me really regrets those years that I kept that in the closet. But now, um, now that it's all out there, I've gone through many stages where when I really came out and started forming paranormal teams and doing ghost busting and paranormal investigations, I had a large group of friends that still love me and they wish me the best, but that freaks them out, so we don't hang out any longer. Do they still call me all the time and make sure I'm okay? Yeah. Do I get Christmas cards from them? Yeah. But they don't want to hang out. I get it. Then when my wife, and this is, we could do another show on this, on how she survived a severe demonic attack and it left her with 3 very rare forms of cancer, which she wasn't expected to survive, and she did. But then there was a whole another set of friends that I lost during the years that I was helping my wife battle that, because I know why. They didn't know how to handle it. They saw what she was going through, what I was going through. I put the blinders on and decided, for however many years it takes for me to either, lose this battle or win this battle, that's what I'm going to concentrate on. And it's hard for people that don't handle that well to sit around and watch. They can't really do anything to help, and they feel helpless, so they just kind of drift away. Do I still hear from them and get Christmas cards and phone calls? Yeah, but they don't really hang out. So here I am, my wife and I go and work this paranormal case, and I never really ran into the motherlode of all haunts before, but that's what this case was. A newlywed couple. He was Indian, she was a white girl, and she was being, for lack of a better description, raped by something that they couldn't see while she would be in bed at night. And whenever he tried to intervene and help her, he would come under attack. And then the attacks increased. It started happening to her in the shower, sometimes even while they're sitting on the couch watching TV. She was a coworker of mine, so she knew what I did, and she asked me to come over and investigate. Well, my wife and I really didn't know what we were doing, and I'm going to get hate mail for this, but we used a Ouija board, which I don't use them any longer, but we used a Ouija board on this case to communicate with whatever was there. That didn't go well. And whatever was there followed us home, took residence up in our house here for about 8 weeks or longer. My wife was the primary target of the attacks. And so I reached out into the paranormal community for help, not knowing what else to do. And God bless them if they.
Hey, you've got a new brother from another mother right now. I mean, not to be, I'm not going to spoiler alert, but I go around to the casinos and I point out the hotspots and what entities are actually presiding in the casinos. I think we should start doing that, the two of us, for because I do that. I do that as a
Are
series
you
on
here in
YouTube.
Vegas?
Yeah, yeah.
I did not know that. I
I've
didn't
already
know
done
that.
Luxor and I've done Caesar's Palace. And I'll tell you, brother, the stuff in those two casinos is quite alarming. And so, hey, I was just about to do Rio and what is the other one? Oh, the Orleans, because they're really big hotspots. I don't have to be there. I can see all the vortexes and the entities. Now you go down there, and I tell people they go for this is where you're going to experience this energy, and they'll go there and go, "Holy, how is that possible?" And they've got their eyes open. They're in a room full of 1,000 people, and there's a hotspot right there. And then we go through the entities. So we need to do. I think we've found a new a new channel material that we could start recording. I'm just saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so it's just they came through for me,
Right.
and they introduced me to my then mentor, who's retired now, and she was a ordained exorcist, had done many exorcisms, brought many of them to positive closure. So she took me under her wing and taught me how to fight whatever this was here in my home and get it out of here. And it was during that time that she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. She said, I think you're being called to this field. And I think if you would like, you should finish the training with me through the courses that I offer and become an ordained reverend slash exorcist and do this. And like I said, the only reason I was scared to death and the only reason why I said yes was because if it ever happened again, I wanted to have some idea as to how to fight back. But like I said, it came at great cost. My wife, she had squamous cell carcinoma of the tongue. I mean, these came, that doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, healthiest person I knew, and practically overnight, squamous cell carcinoma of the tongue. Her tongue turned into like a golf ball size tumor. She wasn't able to talk or even swallow water. She had a feeding tube in for over a year. That spread and became another rare form of throat cancer. That spread and became medullary thyroid cancer, which spread into lymph nodes into her neck. And you think of the insidiousness of that attack. She was a minister too, Stephen minister through the Lutheran Church. So they just wanted to shut her up and make me pay for the path that I was getting ready to go on. Um, so here it is.
I get excited
I
just hearing this stuff.
yeah, I stopped my training because, like I said, I just wanted to focus on. I knew that she wasn't expected to survive. Did I ever say that to her? No. Did the doctors say that to us? No. It was after they realized she was going to survive, they told us that we didn't expect you to. But here it is one night. She went from like 140 to like 90 pounds. And she's, this one particular night, I'm just looking at her and I know I'm going to wake up in the morning laying next to a dead woman. I just knew it. I knew it.
Hmm.
That's how bad she looked. So I thought, what am I going to do? And I hear my mom, you know what to do. And so I took a page out of her. I knew my wife was going to be okay. It's the middle of the night, midnight. I knew she's going to be okay. I had two mastiffs laying in bed with her. So I knew she'd be okay. I decided to drive around the corner to this all night prayer chapel. And I did exactly what I knew my mother had done way back once upon a time. And I crawled on my hands and knees from that front door of that church all the way to the altar, threw myself on the mercy of the court, and just laid there probably for 2 hours, easily 2 hours, talking to anybody who would listen and begging for my wife's life. Um, and I just remember all of a sudden feeling like it's okay to go home now. You need to go home. But I'll tell you, I was also scared because I'm driving home like, is this God preparing me for something bad at home and I need to get there? So I was like, to be honest with you, a little scared. Like, God, you're not going to do that to me, are you? You're not going to, you know. But I go home. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I walk in there. I'm quiet, and I'm looking at her, and you know, I'm just kind of watching and watching, and all of a sudden I can see that she's still breathing. I'm like, okay, thank you, Jesus. I'm sitting, and my phone starts to ring in the middle of the night. I had a good friend on the East Coast named Russell. We've known each other all our lives. Atheist, diehard atheist. Biggest heart that could fit in a human being's body.
Hmm.
Nice guy, always had my back. A lover, not a fighter, although he could fight. But just the nicest guy, best friend you could ever imagine, but an atheist. But he's on his deathbed back east of advanced colon cancer. And I just spoke to him a few days before, and he sounded terrible. And I don't recognize the phone number, but I know it's back east. So I go, yeah, I better pick it up. I answered, it's him. He sounded so great. I'm like, are you okay? He said, never better, but I needed to call you because I don't have much time left. And I just wanted you to know that I saw God, and He wanted me to call you and tell you that Sharon's going to live and that you need to continue fighting those responsible. Because I left the field. I had walked away from my training and I wasn't going to go back. I was done. So he died shortly after that, but that changed my life. And my wife made a miraculous turnaround. Here it's been, several years since that night, and she gets two complete MRIs and full body CTs twice a year. There's no signs of any of the disease anywhere detectable anymore. She's eating again, living a relatively normal life, slowly putting weight back on. But I knew, okay, so I got back in, finished my training, got ordained through the Christian university, and started. And wouldn't you know, the day I got my certification through the Christian university, that next phone call was an exorcism case. That a pastor friend of mine called me begging for help. She didn't know what to do, wasn't used to dealing with that kind of stuff. Would I help her? So, as a favor to her, I went with her. And it was on that case that I had the vision of the Holy Spirit. And I knew that was God telling me, we have your back. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And then the very next case after that was an even uglier case of demonic possession. So I just, you just know, when you know, and that's, like I said, I wake up every morning and I pray I never have to take authority over an exorcism again, and I would be okay with that because I'm a priest now. I want to I want to be the very best priest I can be. I love the church that I'm associated with, the United States Old Catholic Church. I love the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary that I'm a brother in. Um, we started a team called the Society of Saint Benedict, and we helped the paranormal community and mainly helped the church investigating cases of demonic possession. So that's that. I know where I'm supposed to go, but I'm just kind of allowing myself to be led where I'm supposed to go because I know I have no magic powers, and I know it's really not my choice. Uh, God gave me life; He can take it away, and He's put me on this earth to do this. So it is what it is. And if I, like I said, if I don't get another case of demonic possession and do another exorcism, then that would be something that was decided, not my decision. So, but I didn't know you lived here in Vegas. That's
Yeah,
wild. I was about to
yeah.
ask you what's the accent, and I'm
Right,
thinking you
right,
were
right.
overseas
Yeah, I
somewhere.
mean, we're going to get on adventures because I find it interesting. Something that is a local haunt. Ha ha ha. The haunted mansion, something along that line. Have you heard of this before here in Vegas?
Um,
It's sort of
I,
like a little museum of
I
like
know it's.
scary, spooky stuff.
I believe there's the Zach Baggins
Yeah, yeah.
has a haunted museum. I believe.
Right.
I've never been there.
Well,
Um,
just in frequency, that's got the lowest charge of anything. Like if someone's looking to get all goosebumped and freaked out, you're going to be disappointed with the admission fee because there's nothing there. There's not a single thing there. Like it's almost like it doesn't even have a pulse, which I found really interesting. Whereas I can enter, properties and get the shakedown and the lowdown very quickly of whatever. I mean, I've already seen the ones in Rio and in Orleans. That's why I want to go to those next. I'm going to go through every hotel, but it comes down to everything from the geometry and where things are, because part of my training is feng shui. That means that you go deep into the where everything aligns within the property. Only once have I ever had someone bulldoze a property because it was so bad. But you change, people will come to me to create blueprints for the way they're properly supposed to be laid out to acquire the highest frequency of energy that flows into their space. So, you take it at all different types of levels, but, understanding that the Chinese culture is very superstitious. One of the monasteries I'm ordained in the actual original celestial master was known for exorcism. That was his main deal. So he's, if you are ordained within that lineage, you acquire all the inner workings of that very mastery. And so that's on top of the other sort of things that you do within, Taoism, because we have all these rituals. So, you call, for me, when it comes to that type of level, any type of like demonic sort of like, how do you put it, realization, you tend to, I don't ever sort of enter into that with myself being the main focal point. I will call on the Supreme Thunder God, one of the thunder gods, Li Gong, and also God of Wind, Feng Po. And so they just come in and they do all the heavy lifting. You watch it happen before your very eyes. It happens very quickly. There's not much to mess with when you're looking at immortal intervention, and they're specifically there for that. I mean, Li Gong specifically punishes people that get into black magic. They want to do things that are lower vibrational, and that's basically his main hobby. He loves to clean up aisle 7 or whatever the problem is. And Supreme Thunder God, well, he's more charging the space using specific energetics. So you do become a catalyst and conduit, and you use the lung and the spleen channel to evoke high frequencies of thunder. And that rattles whatever's lower frequency within the space. And when it raises and it presents itself appropriately, Li Gong, Feng Bo will just remove. And sometimes I'll bring in Guang Gong. It depends. I mean, we have over 171 different teachers within just one of my lineages. But the highest frequency, it just changes. But you should be able to identify with them and, hey, look, there are no coincidences. I'd love to go on some adventures with you, my friend. But the most important thing that I've ascertained from day one is if you kind of present yourself as being at the deep end of something, if you throw yourself in the deep end of the pool and you can't swim, fearlessness is a prerequisite, being fearless. And so I've never, ever, I've had entities, I'll sit there and have them attempt to enter my physical body. They can't, because it doesn't work that way within the Taoist structure. And so when you start to really get deep on how we use the star stepping magic, a lot of the things that we pull in from the constellations, there's just no room for this lower frequency stuff. And it all stems from the individual. And so that is a gateway. If you possess a level of fear, that's a gateway. That's an opportunity for the very, experience that you're having. And, this is something that some people are not consciously aware of. They're like, hey, I'm superhuman. I'm bulletproof. And, this is always a great way to start. But you have to know, are you enveloping the whole consciousness and a realization of that? Or is this just telling yourself what you want to hear, not telling yourself the truth? And that's that deeper seated part. And you have to experience it. I get people all the time, I want to be the badass exorcist. And, the training is 3 years. Most people last 6 months. And, I always take a group of like 30, 40 people. And within the first year, I have like 5 from 40. Because within 6 months, it's just like so many things arise from the deeper cultivation when we get into the energetic cultivation practices, because there's no room for anything other than the higher frequency. And once you cultivate the infrastructure, you are the beacon. You are the tuning fork of that higher frequency. In, for example, in your situation, God, there's no room for anything else. And so that presents itself within a duality. So you find this probably a lot. I get this all the time. You can walk into a room and there's only two outcomes that come out of your interaction with other people. They either love you or hate you. That's it, because of the duality that we're working in. And as a Taoist, you get higher, and that yin and yang is two sides of the mountain. You go up the mountain and you merge with one, with everything, which is what we call the Wu Ji, the mother of all things, the Tao. And so when you merge with that, and you can actually represent that as your experience on a day-to-day basis, and you're not sort of subject to being controlled by your personality, the sum of your life experiences, this can be the resonance. And so you resonate with it, and what happens is your personality starts to conform to that frequency, and you just stay there. And it's like, I just had an interview with someone, and one of the people were watching, they're like, holy crap, I never expected to feel energy through a video. Just every time Sunshine talked, our whole body reverberated. It oscillated. It was an energy thing, because it's just a state of resonance. You got to be able to hold that, though. And that's the part that most people, that's where they start. But that's the power of Taoism, second to none. For internal alchemy practices, there's no other system that goes as deep to cultivate that internal component. That then makes it really powerful, because you can then direct the energy any way you choose to. Now, I'm not saying that I've come across people that have mastered internal alchemy and they can levitate, they can stop their heart, they can do all these things. That doesn't make them holy. It's a practice that is cultivated, and there is a higher level. Like, for example, if someone, this happens to me quite often, people come to me, oh my goodness, my grandmother's in a coma, she's going to die tomorrow. And this is just a normal thing from week to week. And they're like, whoa, I've heard about you. I was told to call you. Don't worry, it's taken care of. They're like, what? It's fine. Because the frequency is there. I can see it. Whether I'm not going to pull any punches, I'll be very clear if there's evidence that that's not going to happen. But then that frequency resonance is raised. Now, the next day, to the doctor's surprise, whoa, miracle, they're vitals. She woke up out of a coma. She's 100% okay. Listen, when Father Shawn and I do these things, it's not a matter of, the difference is I don't have a question. I have a knowing, and I don't falter from my faith. I know. I live, breathe everything all day, every
Isn't
day.
it interesting how, what you do and what I do run in similar parallels? Our techniques to getting to where we need to be might change a little bit, but they're very much similar and alike. And you talk about there's no room in here, and that's why these things can't hang around when you're there. Because for me, you've got your techniques, and for me, it's just trying to stay in a state of grace. It's saying mass here in my home every day. Well, that was part of my holy orders anyway, but I say mass every day, a confession and then mass, and humility. And we talked about, you mentioned love earlier, humility, things that they can't, are incapable of, and render them powerless. When I show up to a home, I already know if it's legitimately infested, because it can be high noon here in Vegas and there could be no trees around. But when I'm looking at this home, it appears that I'm looking at it through sunglasses, and I know. So when I get up to the door, the the look on some of the owners' faces when they open the door and see that I'm already on my knees
Right,
saying some prayers,
right,
and
right.
I enter the house by crawling on my hands and knees over the threshold. Many times that's all it takes. Just the fact that I'm crawling in there. You can sometimes even hear them leave, But if once I start doing things like lining the family all up on the couch together, all barefooted, and start washing all their feet in holy water, th- these are things that uh, things from that realm that are up to no good. These fallen, I keep it simple. I refer to them as fallen angels. They can't they just they can't do it. They can't be around that. They are
Right.
just they are like you like shoot them like a cannon out of they're just obliterated. They can't deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know it's still not me. I know that I'm asking every available, warrior angel, guardian angel, protective forces that have been with me all my life to, I can't do this alone. All I can do is put my arm around the client, draw a line in the sand, and help stand with them against this, you know, supernatural gangster, this bully that wants to kill them. But I know that it's the Holy Spirit that's going to have to take care of business. And many of these people that come to you and I that want training, you can see it right off the bat that they can't, they'll never get that. They may feel that they're fearless, but a time will come where I've had people, hey, I'm only human. I'm telling you, like I was in an exorcism once where I got mad at the young girl who was possessed because she slapped me, and for that brief moment that I got mad at her, it was like I totally lost the battle that day. And there was a priest in the garage that called me out there and said, "You have to go home because you're useless now." Um, it's that I've had people witness that something happens to me, and I don't even really realize that I'm going through that change when I'm there, because it's really not me. It's the Holy Spirit that's there doing what it has to do. And you can just tell with some people that they'll never get that, and there'll come a time. These fearless people, there will come a time where they will get chewed up and luckily just spit out, but sometimes chewed up, swallowed, and sent out the other end, and will never be the same. These things are very real, and you've got to be very very careful. And if you're going to even think that you want to go down this road, go down this path, and learn this, you really have to do some serious serious soul searching. And I have to ask you another personal question.
Yeah.
So, when my wife was battling all of these things, of course, I know God's either going to decide she will or won't live. He's either going to, and then he's going to have to help me recover or he won't. But I know he will. But there was a woman around the corner, and we talked in the green room before we went live about the acupuncture that I had that one time where I want you to address two things to me that I'm interested in. One, what was it about that I was crawling and the drugs I was on and the doctors I was seeing couldn't help me. But this Chinese man who couldn't even speak English did acupuncture on me, and I jogged out of there. What that was about, and this woman around the corner was realigning chakras, and I
Yeah.
almost took my wife to see her because I wanted to try everything under on God's green earth. I wanted to try everything to try and save her life. So I didn't go, but I almost took her to that. Do you uh, believe in those, and what is happening there for those to work or not to work?
Right. Right. Yes, I believe in them. That's basically the core of everything that is created energetically from all the stuff you've spoken about. Started with the relationship with the Yellow Emperor in the universe tens of thousands of years ago, and he was basically the founder and creator of Chinese culture as you know it today. And he started with the internal alchemy. He was taught that by the universe, by Tao, and then that was then transmuted into the infrastructure of Chinese medicine that you're familiar with, i.e. acupuncture. There's 4 branches of Chinese medicine. There's acupuncture, herbology, then there's massage or qigong, and massage. And so the most powerful pillar of Chinese medicine is the energetics, is the energy. There's nothing more powerful.
Can someone, we always talk about being careful with touch.
Yeah.
Are there and there's I have pagan friends who
Yeah.
will admit to me that some of their friends pervert what they do and they do things they shouldn't be doing.
Right.
Is there such a thing as an acupuncturist who can do bad things with the acupuncture and actually do more harm than good?
I would say that that's very rare. Most people I find that end up on my doorstep are medical doctors, Chinese medicine doctors, chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, healers, light workers, you name it, because they want to understand the inner workings. We have the mechanisms of energetics down to the best ever created. And when you understand that inner working, you can do anything. So, can you manipulate it? Like just a week or two ago, I had someone come to me. I've been cast, there's black magic going because I deal with a lot of that. And this person is coming to me in my dreams and literally, let me use the word RAPE in my dreams. And that's what's going on. And I was like, the second she entered my temple, it was like, the 3 pure ones, which are the highest ascension representation of the Tao, supreme purity, jade purity, highest purity, that are my teachers. They are also the keepers of the cosmos. They instantly entered and amplified her like to a tuning fork. She was like reverberating from head to toe. And I said, that's no longer going to happen. And she felt the visceral response from that to a point where she was just, every part of her body was oscillating, and it was like the most profound thing she ever had. Of course, she became emotional, and all these other things. This is just part of it. That particular person was very low level. Most people that proclaim that they're masters of black magic and all this kind of stuff are very weak-minded individuals. Yet they prey on people that have that fear-based in their perception of reality. All this stuff, all this karmic model, all the black magic relies on the person who's being perpetrated. It relies on the fact that they believe within this duality, and fear is a huge catalyst. And so that's how the construct of magic works. And so to create high ascension, it just melts this stuff like it doesn't, it's playtime in the schoolyard. And so she was freaked out. She went to a bunch of people, nothing could happen. She was having physical responses. Instantly that disappeared. I think she was in here for like 30 seconds. And so this is the magnitude and amplification. But I would say, moreover, your curiosity of the energetics, you have a brother from another mother. Let me teach you, brother. Let me teach you, because you
what should someone look out? Like anybody that's listening to us that says,
yeah,
I have somebody right around the corner that says they realign chakras.
yeah.
I'm going to go see them.
Biggest,
Certainly
yeah.
there's something you want to look for in that person to know that they know what they're doing, or they don't.
Well, yeah, like let's start with the actual cycle of a chakra. Okay, so the chakra can be altered in any direction, but in essence, to be aligned, there has a front to back fluidity that takes place. So energy will move through it, and then it will move up your spine and into what we call dantians, which are larger energy centers. This is the upper dantian, middle dantian, lower dantian. Now, you want the flow. So when it's respirating, when it attunes to your breath, because when you Qigong is a part of our mastery, you move energy with your breath, it will oscillate. So as you exhale, it will contract. As you inhale, it will expand. So it will oscillate like this. Now, when you see someone that's wanting to realign your chakras, first and foremost, you're going to feel it. Like I know you have apprehension and there's a few things that are going on with your reservation for that. If you ever want me to show you, I'll show you, and you'll never be doubting the energetic component ever again, because it's something that's within you anyway. You have that mastery. It's just about having someone show you the inner workings of how powerful that is. But so someone will normally get you to lay down, they'll put stones on your chakras where they're supposedly aligned here, 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 and they'll have you lay on a table, and these stones should have the properties. Now, within the sacred
are they
geometry,
heated up or anything, the stones?
no, they don't necessarily have to be heated up. Now, if it's true, if it's a true practitioner, you will feel a complete change in your whole, state of awareness, and so you will feel open, you will feel empowered, you will feel whole, you'll feel in tuned. And so this is sort of something where, most cases when people ask me for this, I just go, give me the person, just tell me who it is, and I'll tell you in 3 seconds whether they can actually do it or not. That's where it's just like the acupuncture, right? You can have a million acupuncturists, and I have students that are trained. They have, $750,000 worth of debt, saying they're a master of all this stuff, but they couldn't evoke a healing or a manifestation or magic if someone paid them. That's why they're here with me training, but it just never ends. It's like this seeker of information where I've got to find this system, I've got to find that system, I've got to find something else, and they're not proficient at it. And so you happen to have someone who he has lineage that goes way back in to his native roots, and he has a lot of juice that he's calling on to acquire that empowered sort of like healing that he gave you, because the meridians are just a baseline. They're just the energies that run through you. Just because you know where to stick needles does not mean that you're going to acquire a healing. You have to get into a state of consciousness that brings in a certain a vibration. So first and foremost, it starts with the energy, the vibration of that energy, then the frequency of that, and then the resonance. It must be able to be held. And that's where you were like, I was in there for a minute and I'd been suffering for days or weeks, and it's gone. And I skipped out of there because he's creating a resonance that's acquiring a result that was second to none. So realigning all the energy in your body, everything is energetic. And so first and foremost, when you're shopping around for someone to clear your chakras, the first thing you need to do is have them show you an attunement. If you're not familiar with energy, they should be able to tune you to energy immediately. It takes me about 30 seconds to have someone attuned to energy, and they're like, ho, it's running through your body. Without it, you're dead. So now it's about tuning you to that realization, and it takes a few seconds for that to happen. Then you will be really immersed in the healing experience. And if they can't do that, I would say thank you very much and turn around and walk out, because they don't know what they're talking about, which is generally a lot of people right now.
It's
They do a bunch
amazing.
of
Do you? I have many indigenous friends.
yeah,
You deal with many indigenous people?
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
amazing how and then their outlook
Oh,
is completely
well,
different. They want to do these sweat lodge sessions where they, take peyote or whatever else they may be taking. I've attended a couple of authentic sweat lodge sessions where I partook
yeah,
in, when in Rome. And it's interesting how these holy people from tribes, indigenous tribes, um, uh, have a completely different outlook too,
right.
and approach. But sometimes I can go into homes, and it's all. I don't understand why some people fight it. We all know it's vibration and energy, and that's what spirit is. Sometimes I can walk into a home and realize there's something negative residing in a corner,
Right.
and I can just go into the corner and clap or ring a bell in that corner, and that movement is raising the vibrational level, and that thing has to move. It has to get out of that corner. If people just realize that it's all energy, um, we wouldn't be seeing some. I know what I wanted to ask you earlier today. You had mentioned uh, infestation, um, oppression, possession. We are a lot of colleagues of mine and people in this field. More and more are coming across what they're calling complete integration, where some of my colleagues don't believe it can happen at all because they believe the invading unclean spirit is so filthy and unclean that our vessel would just rot for it to remain in there too long without being expelled out. But some believe that now these unclean spirits left alone in these human vessels eventually push either suppress the soul or push it out of the way, take over the vessel, and now you've got these living, breathing, walking around demonic entities in a human body. Um, and I see some of the violence that people are perpetrating on one another, and it's not even like normal violence, human being on human being violence. It's beyond that. And I'm on the fence with this. I'm wondering if this is truly happening in some of these possession cases, and if you had an opinion on that.
Oh yeah, let me tell you. I mean, you understand this as a priest. What happens through my journey as a priest? I always end up in situations where I'm having conversation with people, and the first thing I do is I look right into their soul, which is in their left eye. I can go right deep, right there, boom. And what happens with most people is it's a beautiful thing to look at the inner workings, the nature of who they are, and then you find the random, uh, you know, mass murderer, serial killer, dark, dark, and it's like a moment where we lock in, and it's like, you see me, and I'm like, yes, I do see you. And so the benign conversation turns into, well, you're a priest, you can't really say anything. And I'm like, sure, but then there's an unloading of, I've done this, and I've done this, and I've done this. And, I honestly, I would say over a dozen times, I've literally been held at gunpoint by some of these people because you really see me. And so when you understand what it's like to have someone draw a gun on you, because this is like, well, I've just confessed to you, I don't think this is really going to work out the way you want it to. And so you get in these circumstances where people are thinking, what do I do? I'm now sharing my inner secrets that was compelled to share. I have no idea. I've never allowed anyone to know this. And I'm like standing there, and this person has an actual firearm pointed at me. And I'm like, this is really happening. And it's happened so many times, I just kind of get used to it. It's like, okay, yep, you know what? I know the end result. I'm not ready to transition yet. I'm very clear. I've got many more things to do in this lifetime. The end result is this badass, evil, heartless, soulless individual literally is weeping in my arms, asking for forgiveness. And it's like, listen, that's generally not the normal. And that's why I find it really interesting, because that's not the normal processes for a Taoist, but it's more in line with perhaps how you would proceed with a healing of first forgiveness. And that sort of doesn't go in the model of Taoism. We accept and allow all things. And you come to that realization where the more you resonate at that higher level of knowing, you don't need to ask for forgiveness. You just are. You are all things. You are that Tao. You are that present moment. And so the need for forgiving your personality becomes it doesn't exist. And that's just a process from a Taoist. Yeah. So I end up with these guys, and they're like sobbing in my arms asking for forgiveness. Oh, I accept you as you are, brother. But it's like this whole deeper seated thing where they're integrated into the physical flesh. Yeah, I've seen it. I mean, history has shown it. Have you heard of a guy named Mao, Hitler? You know, they're very real, and the biggest, I always attribute it to this, the biggest fall that they have from what they think is their rise and their control, their megalomaniac behavior. The second they fall is when they stop believing the BS that their propaganda, they're basically putting it out, because on a deeper level, everyone has a level of this karmic balance from a personality within a humanistic model. So unless you truly are resonating at that high frequency as one with everything all day, every day, you are subject to your personality. You are subject to how you perceive reality. And you will have moments where you will experience your anger, your fear, your frustration, your sadness, your anxiety. These are just traits of the human condition. And so this is where the megalomaniacs fall from glory, because they stop believing. They start realizing that they're still within a duality. They don't understand it, but they realize I've I've committed horrible, heinous crimes, and then they're subject to it, and they fall. They instantly fall, which is kind of very representative of a darker, lower frequency. It only happens when you identify and are able to offer them what is that makes them whole, which is love. So, do I see it? Have I said, "Oh yeah," for years, and it harbors itself within the physical flesh, because it's maintaining this narrative and this dialogue that when you are at high levels of ascension, it's a monologue, it ain't a dialogue. And so the dialogue is the problem. The dialogue is where you are going to fall subject to many things. The monologue is when you know you are one with everything, and you feel it viscerally. You feel it through the very core of everything, and there's no question. And that would present itself to some people as, you're arrogant. You're very, arrogant and confident. Yes, I know who I am. I don't need to. There's a level of what people are. You need to be humble. Humble to what? Humble to your deficiencies of your personality that makes it necessary for me to step away from my faith and my belief system. No, I don't need to minimize the true nature of who I am, so that you can frame it in a little box of what we call realm of man personality construct, which would be humility is necessary. Well, confidence and knowing has nothing to do with humility. That's just another subject of your personality, and you need to frame it that way to make yourself feel better. And that's okay. I can help you become whole if you choose to. But if you're feeling deficient and you're lost in your own path, yet you want to pass judgment on me, well, you're just digging your own hole. That's okay. You can continue doing that, or you want to fill that hole in and come along on this incredible journey that Father Shawn and I have, and realize the true nature of who you are as a whole, as a singular, as a oneness, as the Tao, God, Buddha, universe. Then that's when you start to realize how powerful this very moment is. Just say it.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. I'm thinking of a scene. I don't even know why I'm thinking of this scene, but I'm thinking of a scene from this movie, um, Jerry Maguire. I don't know why, where Tom Cruise is asking Cuba Gooding Jr., "Help me, help you. Help me, help you." So many people come to me. Obviously, you know, you believe in what it is that's trying to kill you, or you wouldn't be here asking for my
Right.
help. But
Right.
you don't want to believe in any, you don't want to buy into, and I hate using that term, buy into it, but you aren't on board with my approach.
Right.
You don't believe in God. You don't have any faith. You don't have any religious belief system in place. Um, I have to cut a lot of people loose because I don't. The one thing I don't want to do is make things worse. And I know if they're not on board with with where I'm coming from and what I need to do to help them, and they have to be. I know I can very easily make things worse. Um, do you in Taoism, do you feel that way too? Are there people you need to sometimes, and it's heartbreaking to have to do it,
Yeah.
but to cut them loose because, or is the belief system completely different?
Well, I always bring it down to this point. If someone's in front of me, they're meant to be healed. They're meant to be awakened. They're meant to be open to something greater. Now, how I do that on a very fast track level is show them. I'm all about it. It's like I think you just spoke about that. It's like, there's a lot of talky, but we need to walkie. You need to show me something that validates what it is that we're embarking on or we're opening ourselves towards. And so when they resonate to you, the first thing, I want to show someone is their mental emotional state can be altered at will. And I show that to them immediately. And their state of being is like, hang on a second. I spent 3 days not sleeping. I'm highly anxious. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. And within a few seconds of being with you, I'm calm. I'm relaxed. It's unbelievable. But you have to be able to give them something, a taste of, to help them acquire this state of being. And so, you start there, and that's easy to materialize and show someone because it's all energetics. Everything's energetics. And so it's not about forcing their will on their belief system from a Taoist perspective. It's like, we'll show you. And then you have to go, holy moly. I spent 5 years on a therapist couch. I've done, 500 Hail Marys. I've sworn at God. I've prayed to God. I've done all these things. And in 5 seconds, you've just changed my whole state. And I feel like I could be poured into a cup right now. It's just all energy. And so
Talk about the doctor there. We it's also heartbreaking when, for legality reasons, many times if a person has already been, clinically diagnosed with a mental illness and under the care of a physician or on medications,
right.
that doesn't mean that they still can't have an issue with the demonic. I have seen people that have been clinically diagnosed and not falsely. They truly have whatever the doctor said that they had. They truly have that, but they are also dealing with some demons. But sometimes we're not able to help them for legality purposes. We reach out to the doctor. They don't buy into what you're selling, so they're
Well,
not going to let you touch their patient. That's a sad thing too. I've been in hospitals where I've had the staff say we have people here that are, in the psych ward that are clinically diagnosed, but I don't believe that that's what's going on. I think you need to come in and see these people, and it's just heartbreaking when you see that and your hands are tied.
yeah, I mean, it happens. It's a cycle of things. But I mean, we need to understand the distortion that we're living in right now. So, from a physics perspective, a quantum physics perspective, which is the latest theory of all things outside of the knowing that you and I have, the reality is 600 years ago, part of the science model was was metaphysics, was mysticism, was spirituality, and it has been for thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of years. That's the true core. When you look at any belief system, Christianity, Judaism, Catholicism, the deep roots of the knowing come from the magic, from the mysticism, from the deeper understanding that that spiritual realm is more permanent and real than the material stuff you see before you. And so that's the misdirection and the manipulation, the psyop that has taken over time, where people are actually looking to someone with a white lab coat to find solace, to find whole, to find solution. when it's been a manipulation over this very short period of time, over a couple of 100 years, that we're supposed to believe that we don't have that power within us, that we don't have that connection with God, as you would say. And it's just patently false. It's a lie. But, listen, you have to be able to show someone that. But probably 99% of the people I work with don't want anything to do with physiology, biology, neurology, basically psychology, because it's very limited. It's a limited perception of reality that they believe is a basic construct of all things when they know nothing. I show them that they know nothing. If I had the amount of times I've been in front of a neuroscientist, a physicist, and they're perplexed by what I'm able to show them that goes beyond their number crunching or their textbooks that tell them this is how neurology is supposed to be within the physical body. It's the beginning of the end. So I don't give any energy or validity to these sort of institutions that lay claim to what is rightfully ours from birth. So this type of stuff is like, no, I'm sorry, and we do come across these things, but my directive every day I wake up and I lay in council with the three pure ones. I go through my prayers, my directive for the day. I acquire those goals, and then at the end of the day, I do my training. I lay in council with the three pure ones. They give me directive for the following day. I have my prayers. I go to sleep. I wake up energized because these are part of the Taoist practices of evoking the inner workings of the energy body. And you literally wake up like a hot coal. I get so much juice charged through my physical body. And the inner working is not to tap into the physicality. This is the biggest misconception when you get massage therapists and healers, light workers, people of that nature. They use their own energy, life force. And that's a mistake. That's a mistake. You come into the world with what we call Qing, your constitution, from a Taoist perspective. Someone has a battery. What time are we? Someone has a battery. It's about 100%. But normally, due to their genetic disposition, their hereditary behavior, the cycle of their ancestors, they're normally about 80% of 100%. And then I teach them the internal alchemy practices to bring their energy up to 100. And then from 100, you go to 1,000, from 1,000 to 10,000. So you're supercharging this flesh, so it's always energized. And the ultimate goal of a Taoist is to eat one meal every second day, and to attune yourself to a higher state. Because when you start living this space, you're living using the energy, which is the true source of all things.
See, there's another thing that's parallels with fasting.
Yeah. Yes. That's what I do on I do one meal a day, and in most cases I'll do one meal every other day. I got more energy than you can poke a stick at. And then when you charge it up with the internal alchemy practices, for example, yourself, when you go into these things, or even if you're dealing with a congregation, there needs to be an understanding, and it's not from the fear perspective of protection that you are me, I am you. What do I have to protect myself from? Which is one of the things that is part of the fearlessness when I deal with these energetics, is that I don't give them any credence. I don't give them any value. And that's why they have no power over me. And that comes right from the Tao Te Ching. When you know that you are not of this body, what can harm you?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yep.
Nothing. And so this is sort of like the inner workings and the cultivation of it. So when you energize yourself, you get there, and you're able to go through your whole day, whether you're a massage therapist, a healer, an attorney, a judge, a janitor at McDonald's, a garbage worker, you end up with more energy than you know what to do with. You're like, holy moly. And then when you frame out certain type of like constructs of your magic, when you come across someone that would be perceived in today's world order of a Karen, per se, they call them Karens, whatever they are. that type of what I call in my business called psychic vampires. And
Oh
so
yeah, yeah,
energy that it's left to nothing. It has nothing to feel. When you hang around me and you're a psychic vampire, you literally get drained instantly. They're looking to drain you, but because of the construct of the magic that I create, has nothing to do with the individual. It just amplifies. So when someone has a thought that may be lower frequency and directing it in my direction, it's like an electric fence, and that thought comes back to them 10 times, and they're like, holy moly. So you're just in my presence. I'm not looking to drain your energy. I'm not looking to do anything. That's your intention. It just so happens that if you're around me, you get super tired real fast, and you just move right along. It's like, oh, you know that moment when you're at Starbucks, you
yeah,
get a coffee and you go, hey, how's your day? Oh, you're not going to believe what happened to me. And you want to warm their heart. You want them to realize that they're acknowledged as another human being, a very powerful, representation of God. That's why you ask them. You genuinely want to know. But then you just realize you triggered the Karen, and then the Karen presents itself. It seeps out through their physicality and shape shifts, and you're like, oh, here we go. Here it is. It's happening right now.
no, it's like that old saying. Sometimes, you're gonna go through your day, and there'll be some people you will encounter, and your spirit antagonizes their demons. And it's like I was just not too long ago walking down the street. And I had my collar on coming from a case, and this young girl was walking towards me, and I didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
And she was a little on the gothy side, but uh, relatively normal looking. Other than that, uh, and she appeared to be, a nice young lady, just walking, minding her own business. She started staring at the collar as we got closer and closer, and then as we passed, I could see in my peripheral vision she had pivoted and kind of even sort of lunged at me so that she could yell in my ear, and she yelled the top of her lungs, Jesus wasn't real. And then just got back, into position and just kept walking so matter of factly away from me. But I could tell that she was in a lot of pain, and she was, trying to get her act together after doing that. I pulled out some holy water and
Yeah.
blasted her a few times.
Oh, I
And
love that.
but I'm thinking to myself, that's like that's a form of Karen.
All right. I want to thank you, Father Shawn. I want to thank the universe. I want to thank God. I want to thank the Tao. I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today. And I'm your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master Sun Qing. And I'll see you in the next one, guys.